Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in my bio section of social media accounts. Also, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, this week, let's look at the put-to-call ratio. It's not really that high. It's kind of, let's see, it's, I was just looking at it 2 seconds ago. It's at 0.85. It's really not that high. I mean, it's high, but it's not as high as it was last week. When it's usually over 1, it's pretty high, but it's 0.85. It's not too bad. So that means the market has room to drop more. Now, the economic calendar for the week, let's see, Monday, don't see anything. Tuesday, we got, let's see, consumer confidence, new home sales. We get some Fed speaker. Bowen speaks at 1:30. 10 o'clock is the consumer sentiment. Wednesday, don't really see too much. Thursday at 8:30, we have unemployment claims and final GDP. We get a Fed speaker at 9 a.m. We got Powell speaking at 4 p.m. That's bizarre. What is he speaking at? Due to speak at a town hall event with the educators hosted by Federal Reserve. Okay, so it's happening after hours, so that's kind of sketchy, but we'll have to see. Now Friday, pre-market, we got core PCE price index. 10 a.m. we got revised consumer sentiment and inflation expectations. That could be pretty big. 9:45 we get Chicago PMI. So we get a couple things here and there. But you should check the event calendar every single morning because sometimes surprises happen. Yellen will speak out of nowhere, Powell will speak out of nowhere, or something will happen out of nowhere. So always check the event calendar every single morning and check put-to-call ratio every morning. That's what I do every single morning. The first 2 things I look at is put-to-call ratio and the economic calendar. So you should do the same. Got a few things to watch. Don't really get much. VIX had a nice little pop. It went close to 18 and rejected, but it pulled back on Friday, but had a red hammer. So get off the thing. It gets over 18. This thing could really ramp up. VIX could really start ramping up if it gets over 18. And SPY is at a critical place on the daily chart, which we'll get to in a second. But why does it keep doing that? Stupid thing. But yeah, it gets over 18, 20, 22. There's a trend line right here on the weekly, which is right around 23 area. Yeah, I'll draw a line right here. I mean, I drew this earlier in the year. I mean, you can change and go right off the wick. I think there could be a trend line right up here. I mean, it's the thing I like about trading is perception. You just don't know how you draw. People draw the lines different ways, and I mean, it's got a lot of room to run. So 20, let's get rid of that. I think it's driving me crazy. Is that the pointer? Yeah, okay. But yeah, you get 25, you got 28, 30 seems to be a pretty big area. 35. But I mean, I don't think it will get to that. We'd need something pretty massive dump for it to get to 35. VIX get to 35, but I definitely could get to 20. So yeah, the weekly trend lines they're definitely above the 20 area, 23 to 25. But the thing I'm pointing at is SPY is at a critical point on the daily. You get the RCT trend line right there. So that is something that where it could bounce. I mean, it could drop a little more. It could even gap down tonight. So we'll have to see. But this 430 area right here. Well, where's the low on this one? 431. So it kind of broke that. So you get this daily support right here, right around let's see, yeah, 430. You know, if it breaks Friday's low, of 430. We get a gap down here at 420, 423, and we could end up seeing 410 possibly. I just don't know if we will get that low because the RSI is already down to like 31 on the daily. We're showing a bullish divergence right here on Friday. So this is something we'd have to take be open-minded and be aware that it's at a spot on the daily where it could get really ugly under 430, and the floodgates just open up and it's down to 420 and 410, or it could actually bounce because of the bullish divergence on the hourly. But I mean, one scenario is that it could bounce to cool off the RSIs and fill the gap, then go lower. We get a gap fill right here at 437. So could definitely fill the gap on the daily and cool off the RSIs, then drop more. Then we could see that 425, right, just right there, and the 420, 415, 410. So we'll have to see how far it will drop. I mean, we get a lot of weekly support right here in the 415, 410 area, and yeah, and 415. So we'll have to see what happens, if it will actually hold our CT trend line, bounce a little bit, fill the gap, then make more lows, or maybe it just bounces here and goes back to 450. I don't know. We'll have to see. So definitely something to watch, a spy, be open-minded that it could go either way. Now BA is something to keep an eye on. BA is RSI is so low on the daily. What is it at? Like 23, 22. Now, a thing to point out, in the weekly, it is at the bottom of the weekly trend channel that it used to have, that was holding all year long, 90% of the year, and it finally broke out just back in July. But now it's back into the low of this channel that it has right here. I would look for a strong bounce. RSI is way too low on the daily. I mean, even if it's, look at the RSI has just been hovering below 20, but as it's been down here to 20, it's been rising here as it's dropping. So it's got a bullish divergence going on right here. Dropped from 210 to 197. Actually, no, technically it dropped from 215, almost $20 when it started getting oversold on the hourly, but the daily is at a good spot. So even if BA just has a dead cat bounce tomorrow or Tuesday, I think that we could see a push. So I'd watch it over 198 for push to 200, 205, possibly even 210. Now the range back here was from 195 to 215. So we could definitely start going back into that channel again on BA. So I think that we could end up seeing a nice move out of BA. So definitely keep an eye on BA. Netflix has got earnings coming up. So I just mentioned it. It's like the 18th of October, so we could see a Netflix earnings run up maybe the next week or so. I don't know, but it did fill the gap right here on the daily. Depending on what SPY does, if SPY does bounce, we might see a pretty good bounce off Netflix. It's oversold on the hourly. Daily oversold on the hourly. It's got a bullish divergence going on the hourly. So a lot of bullish divergence on the hour time frame on a lot of stocks. So I'd look for a bounce right here. If not, I just feel like that puts me kind of risky right here. But I think that if we get a 1 day or 2 day dead cat bounce to like 400, RSIs will cool off. Then it could go lower. So definitely watch for that. I think we're looking for a 1 day to short squeeze on Netflix. So, but if it does manage to lose this area of 380, 379, 360 being a nice next big area. Well, 370, 360. I get a gap fill at 340. Then you get like 330 and 320. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Usually Netflix does pretty good on earnings, or at least if it doesn't, it has a nice run up into earnings. But head and shoulders on the daily, get the left, the head, and the right shoulder, and it did break it right here, which we talked about I think a week ago. So it did play out We'll just have to see if it actually bounces here or not. So is that a gap fill area? And RSI is diverging bullish, so we'll have to see if it does bounce. So just have to keep an eye on that. Apple's at a critical spot too. Right on the weekly, it's right on the RCT trend line. It's right at a very big daily support at 173. It loses that, it could get ugly. I could see 170, 165. We'll get a gap fill right here from earnings right below the 167 area to 165. So if we do manage to break this 173 area, I think that there's a strong possibility that we're going to fill this gap right here. That gap does need to get filled. So definitely keep an eye on for that gap fill for Apple. Amazon had a big gap down right here. It's at a critical area too. Well, kind of needs. I thought it was a little lower, but we can. If it gets below this 127 area right here on the daily, it could get ugly. Get to 125. Basically every $5, 120, 115. A gap fill down here at 107. I mean, that's pretty far away. I don't think we'll drop that much, but never say never. But the weekly, it's at the middle of the Keltner channel on the weekly, which is a 20 EMA. It could definitely bounce off that and go up and fill the gap that it did on Thursday morning, Wednesday overnight, Thursday morning at 135. It's the gap fill. So, maybe if the market does have a dead cat bounce or a short squeeze the next day or two, Amazon could go up and fill that gap and do the same thing. So definitely keep an eye on that. It's got some, it's definitely at a critical area on the downside on Amazon. So definitely keep an eye on that. Microsoft, kind of the same thing. It's at a critical area right here. If it gets below, 315, it could get ugly. It's got a gap fill down here at 288. I don't know if it'll get below 300. 300 is a pretty big area. If it does get below 315, 310 could be next. 305, 300 would be a big psychological number. Then you get gap support here at 295. I don't think it will break gap support. It's too far away, but if the market's really having a hard time, it could do it, but I don't think it will. I think it will likely bounce at 295, and plus that's about where the bottom of the Keltner channel is on the weekly. You got lots of support right here, right at the 293 area, 295. Yeah, right around the 295 area. So it's got room to drop, and it is at a kind of a critical spot on Microsoft too. So definitely keep an eye on that. NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA has been holding support right here at the 405, right here at the 405 area. Breaks that 405 area, we're going to definitely see a push down to 400, be a big psychological area number. Then you get this 400 support right here. Then you get 375, which is gap support. And if there's any downside or any bad news, I could definitely see a gap fill on NVIDIA. So it does need to fill that gap. We'll have to see if it actually will this time. I don't think it will. Maybe it won't. If it does dump, 375 might actually kind of hold gap support a little bit and maybe bounce a little bit to get RSI cool off, then come back down and fill the gap. So got some things to watch. Nothing I'm really too overly excited about. We'll have to see what the market does, and that's why you need to be in the room. We'll play it day by day, and just that's going to do it. So thanks for watching.